Hey, what's poppin', y'all? This your boy Bear 3200, aka Mr. Antisocial, and we back today with another video, man. We gonna check out the deadliest gangsters in Chicago, man. They call these boys the Satan's disciples, man. Hey, I ain't never heard of these boys, but you know you got the Latin Kings, the GDs, the BDs, all that good stuff out there in Chicago, man. So I don't know how they saying they calling these boys the deadliest gangsters in Chicago, but we gonna check this video out. Hey man, drop a comment below. Tell me what you think of this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and help support the channel. And with that, we gonna dive right into this video, y'all.
He was obviously the suspect number one. The only problem was that Chicago police could not find him. However, they did find suspect number two. When you think of Southside Chicago, a few things may come to mind.
We finna finesse what we gotta finesse. We thinking streetwise.
You gotta be ready for what's coming, you feel me?
Whether it's King Von, FBG Duck, FYBJ Main, no, I'm just kidding. But you know who are the most talked about sections. Of course, these are terrible conflicts that just never seem to end. However, Southside Chicago has another side to it that's equally as bad, but is never covered by the media. A side that even the guys I mentioned would get goosebumps if they heard the name. This is the real Southside Chicago. But before we get into it, let me run the intro. The story begins in the 1940s, a very important time in American history. After the Great Depression, thousands of Eastern European families flooded to Chicago to work in manufacturing. The vast majority settled along the south branch of the Chicago River, from Pilsen down to Little Village. By 1948, Pilsen was a nearly 100% Polish and Slavic neighborhood. But then in the 1950s, many Hispanic families began moving in. Because humans are stubborn and multiculturalism was a foreign concept, the local families were not too thrilled. Many Eastern Europeans began moving out to suburbs like Cicero and Oak Park, while the Mexican families moved in. Tensions in the area were high, and the Polish teenagers decided to get together and form an alliance that they thought was necessary. So in 1959, about 12 Polish teenagers got together and created the Satan Disciples, also known as SDs. They chose the name to scare off anyone who thought about messing with them. This is because they figured that they needed protection from the influx of new immigrants in the area.
Hey yo, but real quick, ain't that how all gangs started in some way, shape, or fashion? Because they were stricken with poverty, because they needed protection from other people bullying them or picking on them or messing with them, violating them in some way. So a group band together to protect each other, which in the outcome you get a gang.
Once they formed, they realized that the Mexican teenagers had no intentions of being their rivals at all. In fact, they actually thought they were cool, and they even wanted to join their side. So within their first year of existence, the SDs became 50% Mexican and the neighborhood was united as one. This is when the SDs laid out their mission and rulebook for all members. Their number one rule was obviously no snitching, but who cares? But their second rule was one that's very unique. Satan Disciples members were encouraged to get jobs, open businesses, and to be productive citizens. Whether that was opening a restaurant.
Now this, by George, I think they got it. I think they got it. I think they got it, bro. I ain't never heard of a gang requiring their members to get jobs. Hold up. Let me repeat that. I've never heard of a gang requiring their members to get a job. If this ain't some of the smartest shit that you could ever do. Let me repeat that for y'all. If this ain't some of the smartest, one of the smartest things you can do, you want to form a gang, everybody, we not, I don't know what they whole agenda is, but look, everybody, we starting the game. Look, all y'all niggas gonna get jobs. Everybody get jobs. We need a chef. We need a doctor. We need a lawyer. We need a baker. We need somebody in construction. We need all of that. Somebody in the police force. We need all of that. Because everybody going to be bringing back to the pot and putting back to the pot and supporting. This is going to do nothing but make the gang stronger. But on a legit side, if we doing legit things, come on, bro. Come on, we gotta get with it. We could think, see, our problem is, we think of smart shit. We think of smart shit. Somebody blow me up. But we always incorporate some illegal dumb shit in it. And we get caught up. So, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta think smart all the way through. If you're gonna start off smart, start off smart. Alright, boom, no snitching, but okay. Rule 2, everybody required to get jobs. That's a power play right there. That's a power play right there.
Restaurant, working in a plant, or becoming a firefighter. As long as you weren't the police, these were all respected positions for SD members. Essentially, the SDs existed as a brotherhood of Pilsen residents protecting each other from the wild streets of Chicago. But as you would expect, this came with a cost. Members owed a portion of their salary to the highest-ranking member, who's known as the King. The King was elected by committee, and it was generally under.
Get your business up and running with Shopify, the commerce platform designed for entrepreneurs.
I've turned over 500 average 9-to-5ers into profitable traders in just 8 weeks using a little-known 3-phase system. And if I
By this time, the Satan disciples had spread all over the city. One of these territories would be on the west side, specifically Garfield Park. Here is where a reputed member named Teodoro Baez resided in his upstairs apartment. Teodoro was known as Mandingo, a dangerous member who was liable to trip on anyone. Mandingo operated with his right-hand man, a man by the name of Juan Estrada. Together, the two got money and applied pressure on anyone who got in their way. Well, in early August, Juan began getting frustrated with Mandingo over unpaid debts. From what we know, Teodoro owed Juan $1,000. So finally, Juan decided to confront Mandingo. August 5th, 1999. It's a hot summer morning and Juan calls up Mandingo and tells him that they need to meet. Mandingo tells him to pull up to his apartment. So Juan gets ready and tells his girlfriend Janet to drive him there. They arrive at 11 a.m. and Juan gets out of the car and walks up to the apartment. The friends sit down and start talking about the situation. Mandingo repeatedly tries to change the topic, but Juan is not going for it. He eventually gets frustrated and starts calling Mandingo out of his name. First he calls him a custer and then he calls him a snuva. No, I'm just kidding. He actually stands up and calls him a bitch in an aggressive manner. At this point, Mandingo sees red, despite the fact that Juan is his friend and fellow SD member. So he stands up, whips out the blicky, and he hits his leg and Juan begins to scream. And that's when Mandingo unfortunately grabs his samurai sword.
That's foul, bro. Violation. He a violation. How you gonna go through it with your homie over a stack? We supposed to be getting money. We supposed to be getting at $1. You better be getting at $1 if you're able to loan your homie a stack. You know what I'm saying? Whether it was for some work or whether it was cash. Either way, you don't give nobody nothing that you not prepared to take that loss. You know what I'm saying? You don't give nobody nothing if you're not prepared to write it off. If you ain't prepared to write it off, don't loan nobody nothing, don't front nobody nothing, don't get nobody nothing. If you can't stand it. Because at the end of the day, if that person can't, everybody don't be 100. Everybody ain't 100. You know what I'm saying? Everybody don't keep it 100. So if a person can't keep it 100 with you and stand on, you know what I'm saying, 10 and repay you like they supposed to, then you up shit's creek. So if you can't give nobody, if you can't stand it, then don't give nobody nothing. You don't go through it with your homie over a stack. That's lame shit. Come on, man, you a lame. He the first lame. I don't know any other lame stories in that whole circle right there that happened first. But right here, from far as we can see, he was the first lame. That was the first lame that I can see the downfall. That's the start of the downfall right there. Lame ass nigga. Like, both of y'all lame. Beefing over a stack.
Right after doing this, he remembers that Juan came with his girlfriend, so he walks down to her car and casually tells her to come upstairs. Of course, she thinks nothing of it, so she follows his directions. Sadly, this is where she meets her fate. Juan and Janet were discovered in the Chicago River 3 days later. After searching phone records, they figured
And he killed the girlfriend? Like, come on, bro. Come on, bro. What she had to do with it? Because she was there?
out that Teodoro Baez was Juan's last call, so they brought him in for questioning on August 27, 1999. At the questioning, Mandingo realized that the police had no evidence. Regardless though, he decided to tell them everything he did.
At first, I tried to negotiate with him, and then when I felt negotiation was not possible,
Hey, you told on yourself. Weirdo. He wanted to go to jail.
Truly hostile manner.
He wanted to go to jail.
Of course, he was instantly charged and it made the national news. His arrest shocked everyone in the SD community as they could not believe what he had done. His fellow members were pissed and he knew what they could do to him. So after just 2 weeks in jail, Mandingo wrote letters to the judge begging to be placed in protective custody. At first, they denied his request, but then after 3 consecutive letters, they finally granted him PC for the rest of his stay.
Of course.
The case was a major deal in Chicago, and the DA pushed for the hardest consequences as possible. All in all, Teodoro Baez was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Many SD members still attribute incidents like this to King Aggie. They blame him for ruining the structure and making it okay for members to cross out their own brothers. Well, from here, everything got worse and worse for the Satan disciples. The new era was unrecognizable, one that would have King Gizmo rolling in his grave. Well, this is when a new member would step up to the leadership position. This would be a young man named Tommy Parra, known as Tommy Guns. Unlike the previous leaders, Tommy was all about money and would do anything to get it. Once he assumed the leadership position, he began doing something that was far against the SD rulebook. He began doing business with the gangster disciples, specifically the Rockwell Gardens. SD members were supposed to keep money in-house and expand from within, but Tommy knew that teamwork makes the dream work, so he decided to violate the rulebook. In 2001, Tommy and his trusted associates began getting money with the GDs and Rockwell Gardens. In 1 year, they ran up more money than any member in Satan Disciples history. But it would also become Tommy's biggest downfall. In 2002, Chicago police opened an investigation into the GDs in the Rockwell Gardens. While spying on the projects, they noticed something very strange. There's one guy who's always here who doesn't look like the rest. So police turned their focus away from the GDs and they started focusing on Tommy. They began tracking his every move and using SD informants to get information. And after just 1 month of investigating, Tommy and 2 associates were arrested. Now listen to this. After his arrest...
Hold on. This was the mistake. You getting money with these dudes, but you stand out like a sore thumb. You stand out like a sore thumb. But you getting money with them. Why are you hanging with them? Why you gotta go over there and chill, chit chat, bro? Listen, if you need to meet with them somewhere else. Go meet me in the mall. Meet me at the restaurant. We go have breakfast. You know what I'm saying? Meet me somewhere down at the library. Meet me somewhere at the museum. Meet me somewhere else. I'll be down your block. I'm gonna come down there because I want everybody that's down there to know who I am. Because I want everybody down there to know that I'm somebody. But when you putting yourself in the spotlight like that, because you want everybody to know your name, everybody gonna know your name. Now the feds that's watching them, wondering who you. Come on, guys. We could look at the Frank. Look, let's take it back. And this had to be after that, but we could go all the way back to remember when look at the Frank Lucas story. The Frank Lucas story. Ain't nobody know who Frank Lucas was until he threw something on that caused him to get the wrong attention. You on a block that ain't yours. And they got it popping over there. Y'all making more money than y'all ever made. They got it popping over there. So you know they probably being watched. Why go over there? That's why Frank Lucas, if that's the way they say it happened, that's why Frank Lucas was mad that his wife bought him that chinchilla and the chinchilla hat, because he knew this, or as soon as I throw this on, it's going to cause too much attention. I'm going to get attention from the wrong people. But he did it anyway. It's crazy, man. Look what attention seeking got him. The wrong attention.
Police discovered that Tommy's father was actually a Chicago police captain. This was against the SD rules, but it was also eye-opening to Chicago police. Either way, they didn't look into his father, and Tommy was sentenced to 25 years. Yes, you heard that correctly, 25 years, and he didn't even hurt a soul. At this point, this was back-to-back leaders who had broken major rules, so why should members follow anything they say? Sadly, this mentality led to the Satan disciples making terrible decisions. September 6, 2010. It's a Sunday evening on 24th and Washtenaw, the 1 SD block in Little Village. On this afternoon, a member named Louise Patton is hanging out on the block. That's when a car full of 2 women double parks on 24th. Luis gets suspicious that they're Latin kings, so he walks up to the car. He asks them if they're Latin kings, to which they respond, "No, we're girls," and they start giggling. Luis unfortunately takes this as disrespect. The incident sparked major outrage in the community, and rightfully so. However, Louise Patton would not be arrested for 3 more years. In the meantime, even his own side was disappointed in what he had done. Specifically, a member named Robert Vela was extremely disappointed. Robert was one of the original members on 20.
Are you tired of getting lowball cash offers for your home? Not only will I buy your home fast, I will also pay your
24th, known as Bobby D. At this point, Bobby had moved to the South Chicago suburb of Midlothian where he raised his family. However, when he heard about the incident, he decided to go back to his original block to straighten things out. And that takes us to October 30th, 2010. Bobby arrives at 7 p.m. and he posts up on the block with some younger members. As he's talking to the members, a man is creeping up from behind the buildings, and that's when the man walks behind Bobby. This was a huge deal in the SD community and a lot of members were pissed. Chicago police knew that this could spark a major retaliation for whoever had done this. They figured that this was revenge from the Latin Kings for the September 6th incident. But after talking to Latin Kings members, they realized that this was not the case at all. Instead, they started looking into the SDs. Maybe this was an inside job. And what do you know, SD informants told police that it was a fellow SD member from 24th. However, because the case is sealed, we don't know exactly who it was. But I'm sure you can make an educated guess, especially after this next incident. It's 2012 and Louise Patton is still on the streets acting as wild as ever. February 18th, 2012. Louise Patton is driving around the Latin Kings territory looking for any rivals he can find. At 4 p.m. while driving down California Avenue, he notices a car full of Latin Kings members going the other way. So he instantly busts a U-turn and speeds down California to catch up. He then pulls directly in front of the car and corners them in. That's when he rolls down his window. Bang! Due to surveillance footage, Luis was arrested quickly after. And after recovering his blicky, police were able to tie it to the September 6th incident as well. After a long trial, Luis was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. While these kinds of incidents further the rivalry between the SDs and the Latin Kings. However, these weren't their only rivals. Although the Kings were their most hated, the SDs also despised another local gang. This would be 2-6, a little village gang who started out on 26th. Since the 1980s, the SDs and 2-6 have been bitter rivals fighting over Little Village territory, and that takes us to August of 2015. As you know, the SDs have always been encouraged to get legal jobs, and for two members, this meant working security for a towing company, making sure the repo man is safe. The two men are Carlos Cregan of Whitting, Indiana, and Jonathan Rodriguez of Calumet, Illinois. Well, because this is a standby profession, the members can do whatever they want until they get dispatched to a scene. And that takes us to August 22nd, 2015. The two SD members are on standby in the Clearing neighborhood of Southside Chicago. After being bored sitting in their car, they decide to drive to a bar on West 63rd. At the bar, they start chopping it up with a random guy named Leonardo Morales. This lasts until 2 a.m. when the bar closes and they walk outside. This is when they get a call that a driver is having issues with a repo and they need to assist him on the scene. So instantly they hop in their truck and they ask Leonardo if he wants to tag along for fun. He agrees and together the three head to the scene. Well, long story short, they break up the argument and it's just another regular day at work. After this, Leonardo asks if they can give him a ride home. The SD members agree and they all hop in Jonathan's car. During the car ride, Leonardo starts to talk about his past. He tells them that he used to be a 2-6 member before he changed his life. The energy in the car shifts as the two SD members look at each other in the front seat. Without saying a word, they simply nod at each other and drive down to a nearby alley. At this point, Leonardo is confused and he asks them if there's a problem. The members tell him that they're just tired and they need to take a smoke break. When they get to the alley, they ask Leonardo if he can join them. He agrees and steps out of the car. And that's when the unexpected occurs. The members hop in their truck and speed home. Little did they know the neighbors above the alley witnessed it happen. And just like that, they were both raided and booked into Cook County Jail.
Kill a stranger at the bar. He said he used to be.
Incidents like this are what have given the Satan Disciples a terrible reputation over the last 10 years. And unfortunately, it doesn't stop here. As you know, the SDs rival the Latin Kings in 2-6, but they also rival another large section in Chicago as well. This happens to be the Almighty Saints, the most active gang in the back of the yards neighborhood. For many years, they could be considered the SD's fourth biggest rival. But then, starting in 2016, they moved up to number 1, and it all started with a devastating move from the Satan Disciples. December 26, 2016. It's a cold winter day in Chicago, but the holiday season brings joyous times. On this day, a man named Jamil Al-Shabi is walking his dogs around the neighborhood after visiting with family. Jamil's family happens to live in the back of the yards neighborhood, specifically around Davis Park. This just so happens to be Almighty Saints territory, known as Halo City. Halo City is rivals with an SD section across the train tracks, known as No Love City. And on this day, one of the members has no love. 5:45 p.m. An SD member named Hector Aguirre is driving around Halo City looking for rivals. He can't find anyone outside on this freezing day. That's until he arrives to Davis Park, where he notices Jamil walking his dogs. He instantly thinks he's a Saints member, so he hops out of his car and runs to the park. As it turns out, Jamil had nothing to do with the Almighty Saints, making the situation worse. And even though he wasn't a member, the Almighty Saints were offended that the rivals would even do this. The Saints would not take this lightly, and from here, things would get nuts. Over the course of the next year, the Almighty Saints went at the SDs with no remorse. During this period, 3 high-ranking members lost their lives. Lazy D, Grizzly D, and Smokey D all gone in 2017. The beef would go back and forth all over Southside Chicago, way worse than O Block versus 63rd. After this, you could argue that the Almighty Saints had become the SD's biggest rival, and that's because it even expands beyond the streets. February 1st, 2020. On this day, a reputed SD member named Christian Gonzalez is booked into Cook County Jail. After processing, Christian is placed in a cell with a random cellmate. So he's brought to a cell, he walks in, and he looks at the man sitting on the bunk. Instantly, they both freeze. That's because his cellmate happens to be a reputed Saints member named Pedro Ruiz. If you're familiar with jail, you know that this is never supposed to happen. Rival members can never be in the same cell. Regardless, once they're locked in, there's no going back. Well, what exactly happens next we don't know, but here's the result. The next morning, Pedro Ruiz is found in his cell. Wildly enough, Christian Gonzalez had nothing but a soap bar. I'll spare you the details, but this was alarming for Cook County Jail. The negligence of the workers to let this occur is beyond me. And sadly, this is just the common reality of Chicago, one of America's most dysfunctional cities. On paper, the Satan Disciples are one of the most dangerous crews in Chicago, but you just never hear them in the media. This is despite the fact that they have talented rappers. Starting around 2018, a small section between 50th and 51st gained some relevance. This is due to a talented rapper named 050 Shooter, who's way better than I expected. And by his side was a rapper named Lil Icky, who unfortunately lost his life to the Latin Kings. 050 Shooter can often be seen on Instagram Live dissing the rivals and talking his shit. Guys like him are the perfect example of why the Satan Disciples are the real EBK of Chicago. They don't get along with anyone and should definitely be avoided at all costs. On that note, that's gonna do it for this episode of Swamp Stories. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Peace!
Hey man, from what they saying, that might been the most deadly gang in Chicago, man. Yeah, man. Them boys was getting down. But I'm pretty sure it's a whole lot more to that story and what's going on. And that he ain't talking about, or that we haven't found out yet. But, hey, man, y'all tell me what y'all think of the video. I think that joint was crazy, man, because them boys had a good idea. They just went down the wrong path with it. You know what I mean? But, hey, man. Hey, this your boy, Bed 3200, a.k.a. Mr. Antisocial. And until next time, don't forget, drop a comment below. Tell me what y'all think. Like and subscribe. Help support the channel. Hey, man.